This sleep pattern increases diabetes risk 50%. Is your sleep schedule putting you at risk for type 2 diabetes? Night owls are likely to have larger waists, higher visceral fat around their abdominal organs, higher BMI, and 50% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes compared to early birds. I spoke about this in another video where how important it is to get sleep before midnight. The hours before midnight are said to be worth twice as much as the hours after midnight. And so, yeah, try to get to bed as early as possible. You can wake up early after that point, but just try to get in as early as you can before midnight, preferably before 11 p.m., depending on your time zone, of course. Dr. Joan van der Velde, the study's lead researcher, said previous studies have indicated that a late chronotype, preferring to go to bed late and wake up later, is associated with an unhealthy lifestyle. This was the case for me when I was a teenager. During my teens, when I was greatly obese, one of my habits was staying up all night long, drinking Mountain Dew. I would go to bed maybe at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and then get up at 12 or 1. And it was very detrimental to my health. It was very bad. Late chronotypes are more likely to smoke or have an unhealthy diet, for example, and it has been suggested this is why they are at higher risk of obesity and metabolic disorders, including type 2 diabetes. Yeah, definitely smoking is bad. Unhealthy diet, very vague, but really a diet rich in carbohydrates is just as bad, if not worse, than smoking. If you don't believe me, just check your health if you're over 40. However, we believe that lifestyle cannot fully explain the relationship between late chronotype and metabolic disorders. I'm not sure what a chronotype is. This could be a straw man or some red herring, saying that this is what it is. And so because this is what it is, we can't explain the relationship between the lifestyle. But lifestyle and diet is everything. In addition, while it's known that a late chronotype is associated with high BMI, it isn't clear to what extent chronotype affects body fat distribution. 20% are night owls. Dr. van der Velde and his team studied the link between sleep schedule, body fat distribution, and type 2 diabetes in over 5,000 adults in the Netherlands. They were divided into 3 groups based on their sleep pattern. 60% were in the intermediate chronotype group, 20% were in the early risers, 20% were late risers. The results showed that the late chronotype group were 46% more likely to develop type 2 diabetes than the intermediate chronotype. This finding suggests that besides lifestyle factors, something else increases the odds of type 2 diabetes. It is sleep and diet and exercise to a degree, but you don't really need a lot of exercise. That's more for the mental and mood benefits, which is minimal if you're eating a healthy diet, like a carnivore diet or a healthy keto diet. Dr. van der Velde said, "We believe that other mechanisms are also at play. A likely explanation is that the circadian rhythm or body clock is late. In late chronotypes is out of sync with the work and social schedules followed by society. This can lead to circadian misalignment, which we know can lead to metabolic disturbances and ultimately type 2 diabetes." Avoid eating late. Compared to the intermediate chronotypes, those with a late chronotype had a larger waist by nearly 2 centimeters, a higher BMI by 0.7 kilograms, more liver fat by 14%, and larger visceral fat area by 7 centimeters. If you eat carbohydrates, period, but especially at night, then yeah, you increase your risk of fatty liver and a larger waist, or increase in visceral fat, which is the fat around your organs, under your abdominal muscle. To reduce the risk, one suggestion is to have a healthy eating schedule, such as having early breakfast and avoid having late dinners. Yeah, I personally don't have late dinners. I think the latest I'll eat is maybe 8 p.m., but usually I try to keep it around between 6 and 7. But again, I'm on carnivore right now, so that's been, so far, the best experience that I've had in terms of diet. And in my age, I'm in my 50s, so now more than ever, as you get older, you have to really focus on your diet, and it's really been amazing. Alhamdulillah. Dr. van der Velde added, people with a late chronotype are probably more likely to eat until later in the evening. While we did not measure this in our study, there is growing evidence that time-restricting eating, not eating anything after certain times, such as 6 p.m., may lead to metabolic benefits. This is true, especially if you eat carbohydrates, because when you intermittent fast, you're not eating carbs. That's the main benefit of intermittent fasting. Otherwise, you don't need to do it. If you're a carnivore, you don't need to intermittent fast. You can if you want to, but it isn't necessary. Night owls who are concerned about the increased risk of type 2 diabetes might want to try this, or at least try to refrain from eating late in the evening. The evidence isn't there yet, but in time, we aim to provide specific advice regarding timing of lifestyle behavior. Related, your sleep type determines your diabetes risk. I don't know about that. This seems more like an epidemiological study. The sleep type, just to get funding for research. Really, the thing that determines your diabetes risk is if you eat carbs and how much carbs you eat. That determines your diabetic risk. Night owls have lower integrity of the white matter in the brain. They just threw that in there. Not sure where that comes from. Maybe that link takes you to that study. But we do know sleep is super important, almost if not more important than diet. People with higher IQs prefer going to bed later at night and getting up later in the morning. So what, now they're gaslighting those who go to bed early? This is weird. Now it almost seems like after all this about getting sleep, they're like, you're dumb if you go to bed before midnight and get up early. You don't have a high IQ. So this is nonsense. I mean, I'm not going to follow this link right now, but I'll look into it. But there's no way you can say that people with higher IQs prefer going to bed later at night. This is more of a habit. It's not something they have to do. It's just a bad habit caused by many things, especially nowadays with the internet and social media. Stimulation, stimulants. A lot of kids drink caffeine too late in the day. They can't sleep at night. 6 steps for how to fall asleep fast. Okay, I'll tell you, this study was presented as an annual meeting of what. Okay, so as someone who falls asleep within a minute of my head hitting the pillow, this is what I do. And this is also what helps me get up for Fajr every day, in case you're someone who has a hard time getting up for Fajr. The key is in the preparation the night before. Go to bed by 10 o'clock, 10:30 at the latest. I'm on the West Coast, so 10:30 is the latest that I'll go to bed, without exception. Because if I go to bed 11 or later, I'm not getting up for Fajr. I'll just tell you that, just being straight up. It is extremely hard, even just within that half-hour difference. And if I go to bed at midnight, forget it. Just have to take one for the team. I'll be praying Dhuhr. I'll pray Fajr whenever I get up. It's just, for me, it's nearly impossible. So I go to bed at 10:30. I go to sleep instantly. And I look at TV and I look at my phone all the way up till I go to bed, and I have no problem falling asleep, and I sleep all throughout the night. So I know a lot of people say, oh, it's the blue light, it's your phone. If you notice, I'm going to just put this out there. If you notice the million reasons as to why something is bad for you, why you can't sleep, why you have diabetes, why you have depression, why you have anxiety, why you can't get things done. They blame ADHD, they blame this and that. Very rarely, if ever, is the blame put on your food. Carbohydrates, processed or not, especially processed, but it doesn't matter which, they're all sugar at the end of the day, is what causes most of our ailments, diseases, mindsets, our psychology, and our addictions. Even if your addiction is behavioral, your diet is closely in relation to your behavioral addiction, because you're most likely, your mind isn't healthy, is not going to be able to navigate the day or to fight willpower, to deal with withdrawal. If you have, let's say, a behavioral addiction, none of these things are talking about, they touch, say, maybe your lifestyle, diet, they kind of throw diet in there. And then they say you don't have an IQ if you go to bed before midnight. So I go to bed between 10:30. Sorry for that tangent. I go to bed between 10:30. I don't eat past 7 p.m., the very latest 8 p.m. I'm on a carnivore diet. So, and I do drink coffee in the morning, but it's half calf. And then I don't drink caffeine after 5 a.m. I have a cup of half calf after Fajr, whatever time that is during the year. Right now it's 5 a.m., so 5:20-ish, 5:30. I have a cup of half calf. And then I may have a decaf later in the day. But given the shelf life of caffeine, which is around 9 hours, maybe 7 to 12 hours, something like that, You don't want to have caffeine late in the afternoon, especially if you don't metabolize it quickly, because then it's going to interfere with your sleep. You may fall asleep, but then you get up in the night. I also noticed that when I was eating carbs, I would have to get up in the night to use the bathroom. Now normally someone would say, oh, it's because you're in your 50s. This is just normal. Get up and pee in the night. Well, since carnivore, I don't get up at all in the night. And in fact, I don't wake up. I might turn over, which is good. You don't want to lay on one side for, 6 to 8 hours all night. I may turn over, but I don't really wake up. And I don't wake up until my alarm goes off. Sometimes I wake up a few minutes before my alarm even. So I fall asleep instantly within a minute, and I sleep through the night. The only time I have to get up to use the bathroom is if I drink an excessive amount of water. If I really guzzle down a lot of water right before bed, then yeah, I might have to get up and use the bathroom like around 4 in the morning or something like that. But for the most part, I don't have to get up in the night to use the bathroom like I did when I was eating carbs, which is strange because carbs are supposed to retain water, help you retain water. So you would think that I wouldn't have to use the bathroom if I'm eating carbs because it would retain that water until the morning, but wasn't the case. I would get up during the night. So, this said a few things, but yeah, not getting sleep does increase your risk of diabetes. This is true. There are other studies and even anecdotal evidence from people I know and even from myself that cortisol goes up, which in excess can cause weight gain. And you have to also understand that this is referring to type 2 diabetes. We don't want to conflate this with obesity because you can have type 2 diabetes and be thin. Some people get adipose tissue, get the jiggly fat, which a lot of times is benign. It's not harmful. But many people also will have the visceral fat. So they look thin, but they have fat growing around their organs, and this is the more deadly fat. And this can lead to type 2 diabetes. And so if you do carnivore, you can avoid that. And you can get away with less sleep when you're on carnivore because your body doesn't have to do as much repair from the carbohydrates. You're not eating carbohydrates. So you even get autophagy when weight training. And eating carnivore can even mimic the benefits of fasting. So that's why you don't really need to intermittent fast on carnivore. A lot of the things we're told to do are because we eat carbs. If you cut out the carbs, you'll optimize your health. You won't need all the superfoods and mushrooms and tinctures and all these things. You don't need any of that. Those are all just natural medications to hide the symptoms of eating carbs. So hopefully this has been beneficial. Again, go to bed before 11 p.m. Don't eat after 7 p.m. or at least and just cut out carbs and have intention for getting up for Fajr. And inshallah, you'll get up in the morning and you have a great sleep. But give it a week or two. It takes time for the microbiome in your gut to adjust to the new diet. In fact, tapering off of a carb diet over 6 to 8 weeks is ideal so that you don't have any diarrhea or constipation. Some people have that. I didn't, alhamdulillah. But some people will get some irritable bowel syndrome from switching the diet, which is normal with doing any drastic switch of any diet. But you can taper it off. You can try cold turkey doing carnivore, or if you find yourself having some issues, just reintroduce some carbs and just slowly wean yourself off. But you will never regret doing carnivore. So, inshallah, this is beneficial. Please share in the reward if you found it beneficial. Inshallah, until next time, may Allah reward you for being curious and keep tying your camel. Assalamu alaikum.